I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold.
This is where the fun begins.
Hello and welcome to Jedi Knights, the official Star Wars podcast for JoyClicks. My name is Mike Connors, and as always, I have my co-host joining me through the Hollow Knight, Christian Buckley. How are you, man?
I'm well, Mike. I'm happy to be back. The sun is still in the sky on this Jedi Knights recording here in uh,
Yeah, it's not really
sunny
Jedi Knights.
Massachusetts. Yeah, I don't know.
it's Jedi evening right now. It's
Yeah,
Jedi sunsets.
it's doing
That would have been,
wonders for my mood.
yeah, totally. I would have been so used to just like walking out of my office
Hmm.
and just like it being pitch black outside, but today I was just like so surprised when I walked outside and it was like super sunny and just like nice, and I was like, oh, this is like it's coming back. Nature's healing, you know.
Hmm. It's never really gone, you could say. You know.
I guess you're right. That's what a sweet way to think about it.
Yeah. Um, I'll say this at the top because things have been so hectic lately, but we're doing uploads on YouTube again for the podcast. Just
Oh, word.
going up. I have a better streamlined process with everything, and I am comfortable with my job schedule. So video edits not that hard. So Jedi Knights goes up on YouTube in addition to audio services. Once again, we're back.
Yes. We're back, baby. And we have a good episode today
Oh
to
yeah.
talk about that. We got two episodes of Mando to review today. We have season 3, episode 2 and 3 to talk about.
Hmm.
So I'm super excited to get into that. We had to unfortunately miss last week, but we're here, we're back, and we will be talking about all the Star Wars.
Speaking of unfortunate, Mike, we're recording this March 16th. Do you know what tomorrow is?
St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, so I am very sorry for the rest of the world that has to deal with, the Irish Americans that have to, just run around
Yeah.
saying like, oh, the ancestors.
Me included.
No, myself as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, no, but tomorrow was the initial release date of Star Wars Jedi Survivor before it got delayed. So
Right.
we will feel the
true.
absence.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Maybe just have an extra Guinness to sort of to shut it all down, you know.
Yeah.
The sadness will go away.
Yeah, but not much longer to wait. We just got a ways to go for their Star Wars game, but we got a lot of other good stuff going on in a galaxy far, far away. Anyway.
Yeah, we're about just a little over a month away from Star Wars Jedi Survivor that comes out on April 28th. We've got, although the conclusion of The Last of Us happened, we still got Pedro Pascal
Mm-hmm.
on our TV screens with The Mandalorian for at least the next, how many more weeks? 5?
I think so.
Uh, so yeah, Star Wars is booming. Business is booming, baby, and we're here to talk about it. So why don't we get started with just some of the news, shall we?
Sure thing.
So one of the first things here, we'll go light, get heavier as we go on. Christian, I am a big fan of the From a Certain Point of View books. This is like where, famous, people of interest, screenwriters, authors, just whoever really, famous people, all come together on the 40th anniversary of the original Star Wars films, publish a book of 40 different stories that are supposed to take place during that time, that may be canon, may not be canon. It's up to you to decide. And they're just sort of like little vignettes, alternate history behind the scenes as people think about it. I really love these books, and we're getting a Return of the Jedi one. It's been officially announced. I'm not sure exactly when it's going to be coming out. Just look that up really quick, but I'm hyped for this. I feel like it's only right that I get the Empire one and the Return of the Jedi one since I already have the New Hope version.
Yeah, I know you are a big fan of the initial one in this series, and we have talked about stories from them before. I believe when the Empire Strikes Back one came out,
Yeah.
there was a story about like Will Hood, so like there was a fun little nod in there, to just the greater tertiary levels of Star Wars. So, yeah, very cool to see that they're rounding it out. I'm curious if eventually down the line we'll get a prequel version of these, if that's going to also wait until, 40 years anniversaries, or if that's going to be closer to like maybe the 30th, because I think that's the next milestone for Phantom Menace, right? We've passed,
Yeah.
or no, I guess next year would be 25 for them, right?
Well, it came out in 1999.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 25.
Okay. So yeah, I feel like 25 an anniversary that things celebrate, or do they normally do like the decades?
No, I think you could choose 25 if that's what you want.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, it would be weird though to have 40th anniversary and then just be like, but 25 for the prequels. Like,
Well, you see,
although,
Mike, money. You don't want to
yeah,
wait
exactly.
15 extra years, right?
Not totally. Um, but we have some insight actually to what types of stories are going to be in this book if you're interested.
Do tell.
So Olivia Blake gives us a chilling glimpse into the mind of Emperor Palpatine.
Hmm.
Ooh. Saladin Ahmed recounts the tragic history of the Rancor Keeper. Interesting.
Oh, I thought they
Char-
meant I thought they meant Danny Trejo.
no, I think they mean Madden Keeley.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Charlie Jane Anders explores the life and times of the Sarlacc. Okay. Fran Wild reveals Mon Mothma's secret mission to save the Rebel Alliance.
Hmm.
That's interesting. Mary Kenny chronicles Wicket the Ewok's quest for one quiet day on the forest moon of Endor. Love that. And Anakin Skywalker becomes one with the Force in a gripping tale by Mike Chen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Nice.
looks pretty cool. I also love the cover. It's like of an Ewok. I think that's Wicket.
Hmm.
Just like looking up at the Endor sky with like fireworks in it and everything. Good stuff.
Yeah. It's a very cool project that I'm sure they will expand into other notable things. Like imagine, ooh, I love this idea that I just thought of. Imagine, Mike, if similar to this sort of thing, instead of like the fun, lighthearted stuff usually, or leaning that way, what if we got like World War Z, the novel, but for the Clone Wars from the perspective of a bunch of different clones,
That would be interesting.
you know?
So sort of like the story to Star Wars Battlefront.
Yeah,
kind
basically, yeah, like
of.
vignettes essentially, because that's what these are. Um,
Yeah.
and thinking corporate brain, why stop here? Why stop with the original trilogy if these clearly do well enough to keep doing?
Yeah, exactly. I think the thing about these though is that they are tied to something so important that like if
Mhm.
you were to if they were to like dilute it with like too many of these, I feel like they would lose their luster, you
That's a
know.
fair point. Fair point.
Uh but that's not to say that they won't do that.
That's also
It
a
is
fair point.
it is Disney after all. But yes, this book comes September 5th. It releases on that date, September 5th. You can pre-order it now. Happy 40th anniversary to Return of the Jedi.
Very nice.
Uh, let's go into the Mando Mania stuff just real quick.
Sure thing.
Anything interesting that you saw from this week's merch drop? So if you don't know, Mando Mania every Wednesday, which it should be just Mando Mondays, but they drop merch just in coordination with the episodes. Anything interesting you saw?
Well, I want to give a slight clarification because I believe they post these on Tuesdays, so it makes even less
Oh,
sense.
Okay. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
But yeah, the week prior, there wasn't really anything that caught my mind on our week off. There was like a Grogu branded no, not Pete's coffee,
All
Joffrey's
three.
coffee, um, which I was like, oh, neat. That's the coffee brand they have at Disney World. And I,
Oh, is that
yeah,
interesting?
but apparently it's not a Disney World exclusive thing. My girlfriend told me she was like, "That's not just a Disney thing. Joffrey's is everywhere." I was like, "Oh, is it?"
Is it good?
I had it. I think I only had one coffee when I was in Disney, dude.
Yeah, that's fair.
But it was good enough. You know, I got it. It was iced. It worked.
There you go. There you go.
But this week there's a fun little set for the scavenger scarab robot thing for episode 2 of season 3 that
Mhm.
Din gets captured by. So that was the only highlight here, but that was pretty neat, I thought, just for a fun tiny little Lego set. But I will say, I think the first time since we started doing this show and since Mando Monday turned into all of its different forms, I have fallen victim to the hype, Mike, and I
What
bought
was that?
something.
Oh no. Oh, what'd you buy?
So you are aware of this, but for listeners,
Oh, it's what? Okay.
I did buy the quite pricey uh, Logitech Astro A30 Mandalorian crossover headphones because I've never had really high quality like headphones for gaming or editing, and I was like, you know what, splurge, do it. It's a really cool look. It's like minimalist Star Wars where it's not like bright rebellion orange or just like the Empire sigil everywhere. It is like a nice, you know, that Din Djarin Mandalorian tinted brown steel sort of feeling. Um, and then the ear covers, one side has the silhouette of Din, the other side has the Mudhorn sigil. So they work really well. I'm very happy with them. I'm using them on my PS5 all the time. 3D audio is pretty cool. And yeah, I'm happy with them.
Yeah. Nice, man. Sound quality good?
Yep, as far as I can tell, I've never been an audio engineer despite editing podcasts. So everything I've listened to, ooh, you know what my test is, Mike, whenever I get a new pair of headphones?
Yeah. What is it?
No matter what they are, like whatever headphones they are, when I got AirPods, when I got other headsets, including this one, the first thing I do every time is I open up Spotify and I go to the Tron Legacy original soundtrack by Daft Punk
Okay.
and I play the song Derezzed. It is a remarkable benchmark for listening
Yeah,
to audio.
I was gonna say, does it have a lot of highs and lows?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It is a rich, like technologically impressive layered song that makes me feel like I just opened up the gates to a new era of technology in my life.
It's called Derezzed.
Derezzed. Treat yourself. Find your nicest headphones and listen to it after we're done.
I
Listeners,
feel
you too.
that's actually interesting that Daft Punk did the soundtrack.
Dude, that soundtrack is a work of art.
Yeah, it's got super good reviews
It
actually.
is like I'm considering buying it on vinyl. It is a fantastic piece of music, that soundtrack.
I mean, Daft Punk, they're popular for a reason, man. I like Daft Punk personally.
Oh, me too. Yeah, what an act, you know.
What an act.
But yeah.
Well, that's cool. I was just looking at the promotional photos for the headphones that you bought, and they look dope. So
Yes. And they're good comfort too. I was worried about that because I hate the on-ear headphones. You know, I had to use those a lot for editing in
oh,
college.
dude, those suck. Yeah.
Disgusting. Long sessions, like you take them off, it's like your ears like, you know, like I don't know, reform. It's painful. Um, but they're nice over ear, you know, like encapsulating it. It's very nice, very comfortable, and yeah, very very happy. It was definitely worth, I think, the price from my untrained eye or ear, I guess.
Yeah, I've been using the same headphones personally, like for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan of the Audio Technicas,
Mm.
so that's actually what I got on right now. You know how it is.
Yeah,
But
love
yeah,
an Audio
they're also like over the ear, like not resting on the ear,
Yeah.
and they have like big, big like
Mm-hmm.
puffy like things. It's just a good time to wear these.
Mm-hmm. And the best thing was it the model of the headset, the ear cuffs, you know, because like the Beats, they have that like fake leather on it, and so do these, but that deteriorates after a while. These, nice little magnetic ring around the entire edge, so simple to pop off and replace once they
Very
start
cool.
wearing down. So I was like, you know what, worth it.
Now, are they are they primarily Bluetooth? Can you hook them up like through auxiliary
Yes,
cables?
I can jack in with a 3.5 that they included. There's also Bluetooth, and there is a what they refer to as light speed adapter, which is just a USB connection, you know, to pair with the headset. So yeah, I've been using it mostly with that on PS5, and then Bluetooth for my computer and stuff. So
Nice. Very cool.
yeah,
Love that.
yeah, recommended if you're a Star Wars fan.
So moving on from that, why don't we talk more about we're talking about Mando, so let's talk more TV. The Acolyte. This is a show that we're both very excited for. We don't
Mhm.
really know much about it though.
Yeah.
This is the one with Jude Law, yeah.
No, that is Skeleton Crew. This one has.
It's so hard to keep track of
I
them
know, I know.
nowadays.
This one has Amanda Stenberg and I. There's somebody else in this cast that I know is like relevant, because they were in
Oh,
Bodies. What was that?
Lee Young Jai or whatever.
Okay,
He's from Squid Game, but like
that's right.
it's
Yep.
like he's like super famous in his own right.
Yeah, that was the other one. Yep. So, and this is. I think the rumor is it's like Tail End High Republic, or that might be official
Yeah, no,
synopsis.
official synopsis is it's set at the end of the High Republic.
Cool.
Um, yeah, man. So, anyways, we got some more information about the Acolyte. It's going to be 8 episodes long, and each episode is going to be an hour each, 60 minutes. So, none of this Mandalorian BS where they give us a 30-minute episode, and then they give us a 40-minute episode, and then they give us a 50-minute episode.
Mm-hmm.
They're just all going to be around the same time length, which, you know, I like.
Me too. And I think that is another tally on the side of this show being the next coming of Andor in terms of people being surprised that a Star Wars thing is going to be whatever this turns into. I really think this is going to lean into like political scheming and like maybe cult stuff. Acolyte is like culty, right?
Yeah, Acolyte it has like a yeah, like a follower of some sort of
Yeah, like some like religious
yeah.
connotation to it. So, um, yeah, I really have high expectations for this, and I guess just because of what we're used to with premium TV, the fact that each of the episodes is going to be a full hour makes me feel like again this is going to be leaning into more of that, you know, primetime stuff that Andor did. Because if I recall, most of the Andor episodes were close to an hour, right?
Yeah, some were even longer, I believe.
Yeah.
I hope they do because as much as I love the Mandalorian, you know, Andor is something completely different,
Mm-hmm.
and I honestly maybe prefer that. But yeah, I'm just super excited for the show. I just want to see more Star Wars TV.
Mhm.
And I'm kind of curious to see, like you said, if they're going to go more Andor or more Mandalorian with this
Well,
one.
as far as I'm aware, Dave Filoni nor Jon Favreau have anything to do with this one. So I'm betting it's not going to be going for what Mandalorian is going for.
Yeah, well then that's cool. I
Hmm.
mean, we like you said before, we saw a really cool interpretation of the Star Wars universe in Andor, so I'd love to see more of that personally.
I agree.
And I hope that's what this is.
Yeah. And even if it's not, it should be releasing roughly around the same, like, I'd say 8 months as Andor season two, if this is still on track to be next year as well. So,
Yeah, so it is on track to release The Acolyte, that is, in 2024. So that would be around the same time Andor season 2 is.
next year is going to be good, dude. If lives up to the expectations we have for it, and then we get season two of Andor, oof.
I mean, yeah, dude. I mean, this year's good.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Let's not let's not discount that, you know.
Hmm, hmm, hmm.
We got Mando and Ahsoka, maybe.
Yeah,
Um, but enough about TV for now. Let's quickly talk about some movies, shall we?
sure.
Uh, so we were not able to record last week, but some interesting news did drop. I believe this was from what was it? Variety? Yeah, Variety.
Hmm.
Uh, the Rogue Squadron film, Patty Jenkins film, is not happening. Neither is Kevin Feige's movie. Aww. And Taika Waititi's movie is still happening, and he might want to star in it, which, like, of course he does.
So,
So, what were we gonna say?
no, go finish your thought. I have a question for you.
Oh, okay. I was just going to say that I'm not really surprised about the Rogue Squadron news.
Hmm.
I feel like we all saw the writing on the wall with that one. The Kevin Feige news, I'm kind of surprised by. Um, but it's good that we haven't heard anything about what's that other guy who's making Damon Lindelof.
Yes.
So,
So, would you be upset if they also canned the Taika movie? Because I read that quote of him talking about starring earlier today, and some the interviewer was like, "Oh, rumor is for like you're doing the Star Wars thing, and you're gonna be in that." And then Taika's response was like, "That rumor's like 3 years old." And then the interviewer said the other something else to him about like, "Oh, this idea would be stupid." And then he's like, "Well, I guess I won't do that then." So it still sounds like it's like kind of without shape based off of that
oh
specific interview. So like, would you be upset if that also just gets canned?
no, I would not. Um, they need to make a comeback. Disney needs to make a comeback in the movie theater with Star Wars movies. So they need to do it right. I'm not sure if they don't think if it's not working out with Taika, if things aren't just jiving creatively, then that's fine. Personally, I'm not like the hugest fan of Taika Waititi. I think some of his stuff is like not very good. I did not like Thor, uh, Love and Thunder. Thought that
Hmm.
movie was butt. Thor Ragnarok is good. I really liked Jojo Rabbit. It's probably the best one that I've seen.
Hmm.
Um, but because of that, I feel like maybe he should just focus on like making his own indie movies and not trying to overdo it with some of these big franchises. So no, long story short, I wouldn't be upset if his movie was canned. Am I
Yeah,
interested in it? Yeah, but like I don't think it's necessary really.
yeah, I like his stuff. I also wasn't a huge fan of Love and Thunder, but I would definitely prefer if this also got axed. And I feel like it's probably gonna get axed if I had to guess, or like probably turn into something else altogether. With the writer, because I believe the writer they have attached to it, I'm forgetting their name, but I think they wrote or worked on 1917, Um, so yeah, I definitely don't think the Taika movie is the 2025 movie um, that we're gonna hear about at Celebration next month, based off of all this stuff. I will say, in this Variety write up, Mike, they do mention Ryan Johnson. If you'd like to hear the
Right.
paragraph regarding Ryan Johnson.
Would love to.
So this is directly from Adam Vary's write up on Variety titled Star Wars Shakeup, Kevin Feige and Patty Jenkins movies shelved, Taika Waititi looking to star in his own film. As for Ryan Johnson, the in-demand filmmaker has made no secret that he still wants to make the Star Wars movies he first announced in 2017 before the release of his film The Last Jedi, and Kennedy has been clear that Lucasfilm still wants him to. But Johnson's immediate priorities, continuing his Benoit Blanc movies with Daniel Craig for Netflix and season 2 of hit Peacock series Poker Face with Natasha Lyonne, will keep him occupied for the foreseeable future. So it's still on the table. Still on the table for Ryan Johnson. That's all. That's all that matter. You know, that's all I care about.
Like, I mean, The Last Jedi. It was a success. You know, like, you know, people went to go see it. Like, a lot of people like it. He has an interesting view of like the Star Wars universe. I would be surprised if Disney like didn't want to work with him. He's like one of the hottest guys in the industry right now.
For sure, yeah.
And but I would temper that and say that I wouldn't expect to see his movies for a very long time, as that article kind of alluded to. He's got a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be surprised if it took till like the late 2020s, maybe 2030. You know.
I think so as well. I'm expecting, because he's young, you know, he's like probably in his 40s, right?
Ish.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, as far as like directors go, you know, like you got some people that drag it down the average. Like Scorsese can hang it up one of these days. You know, we're getting up there with the average median age of the big directors, right?
Yeah.
So by comparison, he's still young. So I wouldn't be like concerned with him waiting until 2030 to begin a trilogy, is what I'm saying.
I mean, he's only going to get better too in that time. Like he's only going to improve as a filmmaker.
For sure. So for the Ryan Johnson fans out there, don't sweat. Still on the table. Now, I want to turn to the Kevin Feige thing, Mike, because there's also been rumors that you're aware big Bobby Bob Iger came back to Disney in the past couple months. So I believe, I don't know the specifics of his current thing like with them, but I think he said he only wants to be there for like 2 years, and he's like actively doing replacement stuff and like being involved with it, I guess, more than he was with Chapek. Now I've heard a little rumor, I forget where this started, this could be nothing, but I did see somebody say that Kevin Feige wants that job. So if he's getting his film canceled or putting it on hold, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the reason behind this.
That's interesting. I hesitate on that though, just because like there's a lot of difference between like running a company like Disney and like being like a main producer. I don't know, like it just seems like those are different skill sets. Like
they are.
Maybe I'm wrong though, I don't know.
I guess the difference there would be, I know Chapek's history was like very executive focused, and then Feige's been a producer, which is still like a heavy executive role, but also like some knowledge of the creative side, right, with all the stuff that he's been able to get done at Marvel. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was the reason. But also we see Bob Iger talking about Marvel, the MCU, and Star Wars past few weeks, saying like, we're going to scale back and focus on quality over quantity. this isn't a post-Quantumania world. These quotes came out. And that is speaking for all of Disney's slate. They're not talking specifically about Marvel. He also mentioned Star Wars in there. So, yeah, trimming up all these projects that, have been in some sort of development hell with the exception of the Johnson movies. Makes sense and makes me happy, honestly. Like, you're right. If they're going to come back, don't do it on something that's, like, flimsy. Not saying that these would be flimsy, but, like, make sure you feel really confident. Like, this is the return.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. They may very well just, like, put out something that's not very good. They've done it in the past.
Sure.
So, like, hopefully that's not the case.
So,
I hope that doesn't happen.
Do you have faith then in Damon Lindelof and whatever script he's writing that is most likely what we're going to hear about next month as the return to Star Wars in cinemas? Do you feel confident in whatever that project could be based off of his past work?
So I'm going to say something a little controversial, shall I?
Sure.
I don't think we're going to get any news about a Star Wars movie.
Oh, okay.
I don't see why we would. Like, I mean, I here's the thing. We might get like a little bit of news just about like what's happening, but I don't think we're going to get like this is the next movie and like this is when it's coming out and like all that kind of stuff. I just don't think that's where we're at.
Yeah, well, I hear you, and I know it's all just rumors, right? But I think there are some sort of semblance of signs that we have. Like, there's no Celebration in 2024. There is a current Lucasfilm Star Wars project that is set to be released December 2025 that we have no idea what it is. And if there were to be something, a film, to release then, it would most likely have to go into production like late this year or very early next year. I'd probably say this fall, honestly, if they want to hit December 25. So it would make sense that like probably like obviously not a trailer or anything like that, but maybe a title announcement, who's involved, basic pitch premise, and maybe like the lead actor / actors if Daisy is involved in this or not. But yeah, I think this would be more of a logo on a screen, people on a stage. Well, we're getting started later this year. We'll see you in 2025.
Okay, you convinced me.
Okay.
I didn't take much convincing. You have good points. So hopefully we do see that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just feel like we've been burned so many times in the past with like, this is gonna come out, and then it just doesn't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're going on. By the end of this year, it'll be 4 years since we've had a theatrical Star Wars movie, and that's a massive gap compared to when we started getting Star Wars movies again in 2015.
Right. That's like 2005 to 2009 kind of deal.
Yeah, so it's pretty wild, and I know the original trilogy had 3-year gaps, but we live in double speed these days. So 4 years is basically 8.
Any thoughts about the Rogue Squadron movie?
Yeah, I mean, I was excited for that when it was announced.
Like 1,000 years ago?
Yeah. And I still believe Patty Jenkins could make a really cool X-Wing movie. But I think it just comes back to, I don't think this is the movie Star Wars needs to return on.
Yeah.
Like, I'd still be down to see that as a film, not a show. But I think they really want to just, like we're talking about, like, lean into and take advantage of the gap. So that way when you return with what may or may not be, like, episode 10, it hits, and people are, like, hungry at that point. Because I think from this year onward, people are just going to start getting very, very hungry for a new Star Wars movie. I've already seen people being like, man, I wish they were back in movies. I love the TV, but God, I wish.
Yeah, I mean that's I feel like a lot of the magic with Star Wars is the movies, you know.
Hmm.
Um, but at the same time, I'd rather them be a little more measured with how they do it, so we don't get like the Marvel fatigue. But
Yeah.
there's just too much money in this shit, man. To be honest.
It's a fair point, but I know like the shows are doing well, right? And reception is mostly positive for every Star Wars show they've done. I know Boba Fett is pretty divisive, but I think if you ask most Star Wars fans how they felt about the Book of Boba Fett, I think most of them will probably say it was fine, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Want to hear something that's kind of crazy?
sure.
Rogue Squadron was initially announced to be releasing Christmas 2023.
Dang.
Dang.
Want to know what's even more wild? I remember whenever that date was announced, we were like, that's so far away, you know? And
Yeah.
it's not even that it's like, oh, we're here now. It's that, like, we still got 2 more years for a movie.
Yeah. No, it's that was pre-apocalypse too. No.
That's nuts.
AKA pandemic. But
Yeah. But, yeah, I
Well-
guess, do you feel mostly confident, I guess, in these moves then? It's not like they're shaking in their boots sort of thing that a lot of the internet loves to throw at Lucasfilm whenever anything happens like this.
yeah, no. There's no way that Disney and Lucasfilm are quote unquote shaking in their boots. They're doing fine.
Yeah.
They'll figure it out. They don't here's the thing, they don't necessarily have to do anything right now.
Yeah.
And I think they know that.
Mhm.
But yeah, if we could start getting like a semi-regular cadence, not too much though, of Star Wars films starting in 2025, I think that would be a positive.
I know they wouldn't bite on this, but honestly, just go 80s. Do every 3 years. I think that's the move.
Every 3 years, I mean that's not a bad idea with like TV shows in the middle.
Yeah, because the TV shows you already have is a well-oiled machine, and for the movies, like that's long enough for you to have enough time for everything to bake. You can do really impressive stuff with the tech, like Star Wars always used to do, and then, you know, there will be a desire by the time it's out. You know,
There will always be a desire for Star Wars.
sure.
Let's be real.
Desire was the wrong word. Let's say there will be a universal hunger, I think, every 3 years.
There's a hunger for this character to come back. uh, well, I am waiting. I'm waiting for it. We'll be here, as we have been for the last like almost 4 years. So we'll be here waiting for it. You want to talk about Mandalorian season 3?
Sure thing.
Okay, so we're entering the spoiler zone. If you haven't watched Mandalorian season 3, episode 2, and episode 3, turn back now. This is your last and final warning. Overall, these episodes to me were pretty good. I think I liked the second one more than I liked the third one. And I've seen a lot of people on the internet talk about the third one as like it was boring and stuff. And I guess I can see that. I have more nuanced criticisms, which we'll get to, I think. But overall, these were 2 solid episodes. It's just good to have Star Wars back. Good to have Mando back, man.
Yeah, episode 2. I don't even think that I was like negative with episode 1. It was just like I knew that was going to be like a readjustment tone setter.
It was like a whatever kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, did we both say 7s for that one? Like 7
Yeah.
out of 10?
Yeah.
Episode 2 was like a shot in the arm, I guess, compared to that, because I was very interested in seeing Bo-Katan play a larger role. I liked seeing Din struggling with everything and still trying to push on, even though it was like a very foolish thing from like his party's perspective of R5 and then Grogu and then Bo as well, being like, dude, this is not worth it. Like,
Does it anyway though.
yeah, so like I liked seeing that. It was cool, like lore wise, to see what else they did in that episode. And then for episode 3, I unfortunately was not able to watch it immediately when it dropped. So I did get a general vibe before I checked it out, and I saw people being like, "Oh, this is Mandalorian's take on Andor, and it's really not as good as Andor at being this." And I was like, "Okay, we'll see what that means." And when I watched it, I was like, "Okay, I can see why people would say this."
Sure.
And I don't think it is as good as what Andor does, but I don't think that's what it was going for necessarily.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of people had a problem with like how the New Republic was like sort of done. Um, I saw a really interesting tweet that I'm gonna find right now. That kind of helped me put it into perspective, I guess. This person on Twitter only got 8 likes, but it was interesting. Moadib at Moadib style. He said, legitimately depressing that after watching Andor, the folks working in the post Return of the Jedi timeframe can only conceive of the New Republic as the Fox News version of a liberal dictatorship. It's the Empire with a coexist bumper sticker, which I think is fair. It definitely feels. It feels like it was trying to do something and say something about like, oh, like all power is kind of just like evil in its own banality, I guess. Like whether it's the Empire or it's the New Republic or it's the Galactic Republic, like it's all kind of oppressive. And I think that the way that it was done in Mando was just a little less convincing than how it was done in Andor.
Yeah, I think I agree with you where, and again, I don't think I was let down by that necessarily because I don't go to Mandalorian expecting that, you know,
No,
even
I wasn't
though,
let down at all.
right, even
I didn't
though,
even think they would go there in the first place.
exactly,
To be honest.
because that's what I was going to say. Even though, like, pre season 3, both of us were like, we want the bar to be higher because of Andor, but it's not going to be higher because Mandalorian isn't going for that. And they kind of did in a way here, but like I said, for my personal expectations going in, I was not expecting Andor in terms of like writing, and I don't think we got that. But I think like what you said, the way they do it is kind of underwhelming. Where it feels like Andor was painting the politics of Star Wars in that way very deliberately and cohesively with what the point of that show was. This episode of Mandalorian felt like it was doing what it was doing with politics and how it portrayed them to explain why the New Republic failed in the sequels. If that makes sense.
No, that makes sense. And the thing is I don't think that's necessarily like I feel like that's fine.
It is fine, yeah.
Like I think that that's honestly good world building. And I appreciate that. It's just I think that a lot of people have, you know, Andor still like the taste of Andor still in their mouths, you know.
Exactly.
And like they watch this and they're like, okay, like it's going for a similar sort of like theme, I guess, but like it's doing it in a way that's like less convincing.
It has a different goal, and I think because of how impressed everybody was with Andor, we're using the same like very critical lens of political analysis in Star Wars,
right,
on this thing that is not trying to be a commentary on you know, current political situations or democracies. And at the same time, though, it is, because it is tackling these things. But I think, like what you're saying, if this came out further away from Andor, I don't think there would be as much divisiveness on this, because I don't think there was that much divisiveness either with this specific element of The Last Jedi, not The Last Jedi as a whole, but when they're on like the stolen ship and it's like, oh, this person sold to the First Order and the New Republic, or and the Resistance, right?
Yeah.
That was just like a, okay, yeah, there's gray things in Star Wars under the rug. If that came out right after Andor, I think that would also have a lot more like, okay, but like, come on, what are you trying to do there? Because that was nothing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I do think that a lot of times, like, Andor wasn't that long ago, and we still have that sort of in our minds.
Yeah.
So when we watch something trying to, in some way, like I saw a lot of headlines saying like, oh, it's trying to imitate Andor. And I'm like, I don't think it's trying to imitate it. I think it's trying to just tell a similar, I don't know, just like tell a similar story in like a different way. You know, I don't know. I do think it like was interesting though to sort of see like the New Republic and just how in like some ways it's just like the Empire, you know. I do think that that's an important distinction to make, and something interesting that they pointed out through the episode. And like you said before, like, you know, how does the New Republic get to the place that it is in the Force Awakens and the sequel trilogy? That's interesting, and I think that this is giving us our first glimpse into why that may have been possible.
For sure. And I think this was very much another one of those like bridging of gaps, right? Where I think it is evident now more than ever, even when we saw the weird thing in the test tube in season 2 of Mandalorian, we're definitely laying out every single reason for somehow Palpatine returned to we know exactly how Palpatine returned, you know? And this being, you know, the Doctor basically getting to a point where a third party once again has his very in-depth research about cloning from multiple hosts, the methods, and basically everything but the physical person to run the research on developing this further, right? Like they got the equipment, they got the notes, they got everything because of what went down in this episode. So yeah, like I don't know how relevant this is going to be to the rest of season 3 unless they have the gall to get Grogu kidnapped again, which I really hope they don't do, but
Gonna just turn into the Bad Batch.
yeah.
Hunter! Oh no! They're taking me away, Hunter!
But yeah, this in a cosmic way, for the people who are really mad that this was like boring to them, this was the payback for Din taking over an episode of the Boba Fett show.
Yeah. Also, dude, some people just should never watch TV ever. Like,
dude, binging ruined TV. We've had this conversation privately, I know, but binging ruined TV.
Yeah, it has. People don't understand that, like, I don't know. People don't understand the concept of like character development and like spending time with our characters and learning about the world and like that kind of thing.
No, Mike, that's filler.
Shut up.
Like filler as a concept, because I know we have talked about like this felt like a filler episode before. We have said that absolutely on the show, but
oh, for sure, yeah.
Filler originated, at least to my knowledge, as a term for like anime that was literally making shit up for TV episodes because the manga was not coming out fast enough for the anime to adapt it from. It's why you can skip 300 plus episodes of Naruto if you watch it, because it's not canon to like the original story that the creator wrote in the manga. It's literally irrelevant. It's fluff. It is filler. This isn't filler. This is fleshing out characters we've seen before. This is absolutely going to have some sort of payoff in season 3 of this show. And it builds out the rest of Star Wars as a universe, right? And like, if this was an episode where they were floating in space out of gas for 45 minutes and there was no character moments, there was no growth, like for them to just be like, you know, in a box and like grow with that pressure.
Yeah.
If it was just them vibing in space for 40, that would be filler because they didn't grow as characters and nothing advanced forward in the story. That was just vibing. That's filler. This was absolutely not filler.
No. And that doesn't mean that you have to like it.
Exactly.
Like,
thank you. Yeah.
Like, you don't have to like it. Like, it's, you know, there are some like my favorite TV shows have episodes that I will just not watch, like, just because it's boring. Like, and that doesn't mean that the episode is filler. It just means that, like, I didn't really like it that much. And, you know, I don't know. You're not forced to watch this show, guys. Like, you can stop watching at any time if you're really that upset.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know. Like, to me, this episode 3, has been my least favorite of the season so far. But, you know, I can separate that from, like, understanding that it still has a place in the story and building the world and everything.
Sure. It's funny you say it like that because I haven't actually like considered where I would put it, but I probably agree with you, but I was definitely more interested in some of the things that were happening in this episode than I was in the first episode. Like, those two are probably going to end up next to each other at the end of the season in terms of rankings, I'd assume.
Yeah. I mean, I liked it.
Yeah.
You know, it was good. And I thought, like, I love seeing Coruscant, and, like,
Yeah.
I love learning about, like, Dr. Pershing, and I thought, like, you know, the whole thing between him and, like, the undercover New Republic agent was a little slow at times, but, like, I thought that was all still interesting, though. Just, like, learning where he's at, since we've seen him since the beginning of the show.
I will say, just because of you brought up Coruscant, I screamed when we saw the stairs that George Lucas was standing next to in character with his daughter from Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
I was like, yo!
That's the one!
I hate how much I audibly made a sound of excitement when I saw those stairs, Mike. I'm dead serious.
Yeah. One thing that I did find interesting, just a little piece of lore in that episode 3. Dr. Pershing, when he's making that speech, he says, like, why should my research be in the hands of somebody who only wants it for, like, their own, to like continue their own power, basically. Mm-hmm. Something along those lines, which I thought was one of the most direct references to Palpatine, I think, and, like, kind of gives a little bit more insight as to, like, why the Empire was doing the cloning stuff to begin with, you know. It's obvious that, like, eventually somehow Palpatine's gonna have to figure out how to clone himself for the Rise of Skywalker, but, like, it's cool that they're sort of laying the foundations for that.
Mm-hmm. I think that is very cool. I also think thematically that sequence where he's talking on the stage is very interesting because I did see on Twitter, I just pulled it up, at kit_fist_flow, which is a funny name.
Kit Fist Flow?
Yeah.
Love that. That's great.
It was a still of Pershing giving a speech with the hologram above him right next to the frame of the opera from Revenge of the Sith, and they said on their tweet, having Pershing give a presentation on cloning in the same place Palpatine first revealed cheating death was possible was a good choice. And I didn't consider that when I was watching the episode, but I did realize I was like, oh, that's like the opera place, the presentation building. But Yeah, it's the same, probably not the same balcony, but like the same venue where Palpatine gave his speech about immortality to Anakin, and then he's down there talking about cloning and everything.
Yeah, that's an interesting parallel for sure.
Mhm. I also liked. I'm curious if you caught this. I'm sure you did, but like midway through the episode, I think when Pershing is walking with the officer through that like carnival town square area with the mountaintop, if you recall that scene.
Oh, yeah, yes. That was in one of the books that we read, I believe.
Oh yeah. In that scene, they play like a carnival poppy theme version of
Yeah, yeah.
the Resistance March. And in that sequence, the officer is talking to Pershing, being like, "Hey, there's a group of people that like operate outside the New Republic to help the New Republic," and they play that, and you're like, "Oh, this is like rudimentary stuff in the Resistance," because to my understanding, at least, I haven't read sequel era books. The Resistance is a standing army to a degree, but because of how the New Republic like wanted to demilitarize, it's more like special operations, like secret ops stuff, is the Resistance's job.
Yeah, it's like a secret wing of the New Republic, basically.
Yes, so
Like those in power like secretly okay it, but like
mhm.
yeah.
So hearing this character who was like former Empire, worked with Gideon, right, defecting here and being like, oh, and like with the audience perceiving that music, that like extra diegetic version of it, it's like, oh, cool, this is like a hint that this is the beginnings of the Resistance, right? And then he's not about it, and then later on he changes his mind. He goes to their apartment and then says, hey, I'm in. And in that scene, when he agreed to do the job, did you notice the music that was playing?
I don't think I noticed it then.
The music that was playing there, Mike, was, I don't know if it's the exact track, but it was absolutely like drawing on, it probably was the same track, right? The Snoke theme and the Darth Plagueis theme. Like the deep like guttural chant, you know?
Yeah.
That was playing when he was at the door there. And then she was like, "Okay, great." And then later in the episode, what happens? He thinks he's doing this thing to help out. Surprise, backstab. So I think that was a little tease that the true motivations were not, in fact, the Resistance, but perhaps the foundations of the First Order.
Very interesting.
So
That is an interesting theory. See, I noticed the Resistance March,
mhm.
and it reminded me of in Solo when we hear like the major key version of the Imperial March.
Yeah,
Uh, that was the first thing that I thought about, but I did not pick up on the other ones. So
yeah.
good find.
I just the reason it stood out so much is because I remember how many times in like 2015 I was listening to that track, being like, it's Plagueis, it's got to be Plagueis, it's the same song.
Yeah, Snoke is Plagueis.
Yeah,
Yes.
but
And Jar Jar is the main villain.
yeah, but so where are you at with this officer then, and their allegiances? Do you believe this is truthfully somebody working for the New Republic, or do you think there's still some subterfuge going on and they're working with Gideon still, or the beginnings of the First Order? What do you think?
I think that I think they're like a triple double agent kind of like, they were once part of the Imperial remnants, the Galactic Empire, now a quote unquote rehabilitated into New Republic society, is working for them, but secretly probably still does have those underlying motivations when it comes to like Gideon and the Empire and Palpatine. Um,
Mm-hmm.
just the way that the character is seems kind of like very mysterious. Doesn't seem like we're really getting the full story when it comes to them.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, So I'm not sure if they're all as what it seems, you know. I don't think that they're completely in on the New Republic train. Although they may seem it, I don't know if they are.
Yeah, because at the end as well, when she's like mind flaying Pershing, right?
Yeah.
Sinister look, also literally indulging in the treats of the Empire, right? So it's like I kind of think that they're still with Gideon, probably, or like whatever Imperial sect remains, because there's also their other cohorts, right, in their like their living situation in that scene at the table when they were all drinking together. They bring up like, oh yeah, you hear that rumor that Gideon escaped, and if she is a little shady with allegiances, what's to say they aren't as well, you know?
Exactly. I don't know. It's very interesting. We definitely haven't seen the last of it though.
Yeah, for sure. And do you feel, because this is still early in season 3, do you feel that the something here is gonna pay off with conflict within this season specifically?
I think so. It wouldn't really make sense for them to spend like almost an entire episode with those characters without them coming back in some significant way. So,
Yeah.
yeah. I do want to ask you though about the ending of episode 3. Bo-Katan, Kryze, now part of the what do they call themselves? The Watch?
The Children of the Watch.
Children of the Watch. What do you think about that? I found it quite interesting, personally.
Me too. Again, I'm really only familiar with Bo from her run in Clone Wars. I don't think I ever got to her in Rebels. I don't think. I don't remember.
I mean, even in The Mandalorian, though, she's been pretty... she's been pretty skeptical about, like, you know, the whole culty thing that Din Djarin's a part of. And now it seems like she may be considering it. Not sure if she's considering it as a means to gain power. She's doing it for the wrong reasons. She very, very well might be. But it does seem like she's considering maybe joining or something.
Yeah, so the way that I read it, just based off of Katie Sackhoff's acting in this episode, was more because again, I bring up I'm not super familiar with like where she went after Clone Wars. To me, it's sort of read as like she clearly really trusts Din after everything they've been through, and cares enough for him to watch his son and save his life twice, right?
Yeah.
So she sees how good of a person he is. So maybe that colors her perspective of the Children of the Watch in a different way, where she's also like, she's been alone for a long time. And specifically in this season, every time we see her in episode 1 and episode 2, she's just like framed, completely isolated, giant castle, nobody else there, to my knowledge, just the droids. And framing on the camera as well is just like very small in these big empty places. And, you know, Mandalore was destroyed and that was her homeworld. But now she's finding a place and maybe finding comfort in that because, you know, she clearly had words to say about Din's cult in season 2. But with her relationship with Din growing, maybe she's more receptive to the idea that like this is the way that my people can continue growing, even if, you know, she has to maybe convince them to abandon some of the archaic stuff down the line.
Very interesting. Yeah, it's very possible. She does seem pretty depressed, just chilling on whatever planet that is in the Mandalore system.
Yeah, because the very ending of the episode when they're all like welcoming them, it felt triumphant, but the focus of that scene, I don't think, to me, felt like it was on Din. Like it felt triumphant for Bo there. I don't know how you felt.
You're saying that it felt triumphant for Bo-Katan?
In the way the scene played out, like with the final moments of like the music swelling and everybody congratulating them. Like Din didn't really seem like to be the focus, and like it seemed like for Bo, and again, we're acting without faces at this point. It seemed like she was just like taking in this, not love, but like acceptance from her people for the first time in forever, and the music was also playing into that. Like it seemed like she was not embracing it, but like welcoming it to a degree.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think maybe she was a little. What I read from her performance, you can't see her face, like you said, but it did seem like she was like just a tad apprehensive, maybe thinking about what if I did do this. But I do think there was a part of her, just knowing her backstory, that is happy to be part of some sort of Mandalorian community again.
Yeah.
And I think that showed. So I don't know. I'm sure we'll get an answer next week as to what she feels about all this.
Another question that came to mind this episode, and I know the answer to this, but Grogu is technically a Mandalorian, right?
Yeah, he is.
Why doesn't he have to wear a helmet?
I think because he hasn't taken the creed yet.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
You know how like in the beginning of season 3 there is that Mandalorian kid who doesn't have a helmet on?
True.
He hasn't done that ritual yet.
That's true. That's a good point. I was gonna say because of merch, but I think you are correct lore wise.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know.
But something we haven't talked about at all that I would love to hear your thoughts on. The cold open to this episode, dude.
Oh.
That was sweet.
Yeah. Wait, what is it again?
It's like the first 5 minutes of the episode, right? Where like she's like, I'd make you a feast, but you're not taking your helmet off. He's like, this is the way. And then Grogu's like, taking it the way. And then they get stormed, and he's like, drop me back off of the N1. And then there's just a space fight for 5 minutes.
No, yeah, that was dope for sure.
Yeah. It looked like one of the best looking space flight combat things I've seen on Disney Plus for Star Wars, like period, I thought.
I agree. I thought it was really cool just to see Din Djarin and Bo-Katan sort of just communicate with one another and really kick some ass together.
Mm-hmm. It went on for a bit too. I was glad they were like letting it ride out.
I'm happy when they do that type of stuff. For sure.
Oh, me too. Yeah, it's cool.
What do you think about episode 2 though? Anything you want to say about that? I know we kind of mostly talked about episode 3. For episode 2, I just really liked the journey down into the mines of Mandalore. I just thought that was super cool.
Yeah, I thought it was very funny when Grogu was doing his little snooping, right? And he's like, oh, what's going on here? And then he saw Dad captured, and he was like, oh, I gotta go. And then he zoomed away and went to go get Bo. I liked that sequence. I thought that was cute.
Yeah.
But yeah, the lore stuff I think was the big takeaway of that episode, of just seeing a lot about Mandalore. It was a lot of monologuing on both Din and Bo's part to Grogu and the audience about the history of everything. So yeah, I liked it, and it was cool at the end when she saw the mythosaur. that was neat.
Yeah, man. Pretty cool. It's not a legend. It's real, bro.
Yeah, and she hasn't said anything about it.
She hasn't.
No,
Yeah.
she's keeping that secret.
Well, anything else you want to say about these two episodes? I enjoyed both of them. I thought they were good. It's a good start to the season. I'm excited to watch the rest of season 3.
Yeah, I think the last thing I want to throw out there is, as somebody who just recently rewatched season 1, um, and recall the common complaint with season 1 on the internet being, man, this is just job of the week. Like there's a strong narrative through line in this season so far, even accounting for all the stuff with like on Coruscant this week. I think that is absolutely going to have a payoff probably in the second half of the season, to the point where I think Mandalorian is going to be a lot more story heavy in the weeds compared to what it's even been in season 2. So
Yeah, I think you're probably right, and I like that as a Star Wars lore junkie.
mm-hmm. Yeah, and I feel like it's natural at this point, right? You know, we took care of Grogu's conflict, and we need to do something else now. We need to build towards something, so it makes sense. But good start so far. I like them. Like the eps.
Great start. Well, why don't you take us out to sea, Christian? If you have nothing else to say, I think I'm pretty down and out with these last two. I think I said all I had to say.
I agree. Next week we got a Filoni episode, from what I'm aware of. So that's what we end on. What's your bet? Is it going to be about Ahsoka, Order 66, or what's another Filoni staple? Rebels, maybe. I don't know what.
Maybe Rebels. Maybe Rebels. I don't know.
Well, we will see. But until then, Mike, where can everybody find you?
You can follow me on Twitter at Mike P. Connors.
Very nice. You can find me on Twitter and TikTok at Chun2D2. You can find the show youtube.com/JoyClicks, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Just look up JoyClicks or Jedi Knights. That is Jedi Knights without a K. You can find us on, like I said, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, rating and reviewing on those platforms. Any other platform you listen to the podcast on is very easy, helps us out very quick. Just a little tap of a screen, and you can leave a like, help support the show, share it around with people who also like Star Wars. And we appreciate the support as always. If you want to support further, you can go to patreon.com/joyclicks at the $1 and $5 tiers. And that'll be it for Jedi Knights this week. We'll be back with Season 3, Episode 4 of The Mandalorian in the future. But until then, we're fine. Everything's fine. How are you?
May the Force be with you.
Oh, yes, you're right. Beep is up.